right. So welcome everybody to the final, I don't know if this is the final session of your day, but this is the final session that I am presenting today. My name is Cori Frede and I am from, I just realized I had the wrong screen up. There we go. Now I have the nice screen up. So my name is Cori Frede and I am from Visual Sound. We are a partner with Smart. And so we are coming to help you guys get your new smart boards up and running and learn a little bit about the softwares that go with it. All right, so the first session I presented today was on the hardware and using the board itself, the physical board. The second session was on Smart Notebook, which is the software that you download on your computer. And this final hour, this last session that I am presenting is on Smart Lumio, which is the cloud version of Smart Notebook. It is connected to your Google Drive, and we are going to look at a little bit of everything. For those of you that came in after I had put the link in the chat, I'm going to send that link one more time for you. That link right there is a complete slide deck of kind of everything I'm doing today. So it starts with screenshots of your boards. It gives you some like tips and tricks for Notebook, some tips and tricks for Lumio, but we're not going to stay in the slide deck because the reality is I want you guys to really get a lot out of this. I want you to see stuff being done, kind of try to follow along if you can. However, I know that not everyone has the ability to follow along, like you don't all have what you need to do. So if you can't follow along, don't worry about it. You know, you're going to be able to ask me questions later on, so it's all good. And what I'm going to do right now, I'm just trying to fix my screen share so that I can share the browser. There we go. All right. And I'm going to fix my camera. Move me over a little bit. And all right. So you can see now that my computer, my browser is currently there. So welcome to the session. This is the same slide deck that I just shared the link to, so you can use this link. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to kind of be backtracking because we're going to go out of the slide deck so I can show you how to do stuff. So as you can see, I am in Google Drive. This is where you are going to pretty much live when you're using the Smart Cloud. Now, before I forget, I am sitting at my computer this time, but I'm not necessarily looking at the Zoom chat while I'm talking. So please do not hesitate. Come off of mute if you have questions. I might not see it if you put it in the chat. I won't see that little hand raise. I am very cool with you just interrupting me. Totally appropriate in this atmosphere. Come off of mute, ask your questions. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to look at Lumio, and then we're going to look at a couple things you can do in Lumio. So as I mentioned, you're kind of going to live in your Google Drive. And the reason you're going to live in your Google Drive is because it's going to keep you organized. It's going to keep everything simple. You'll notice that I am currently in a tree of files. So I have the My Drive, and then I have a folder called Training Folder. And then in my training folder, I have a folder specifically for today called T3 Expo. That is where the deck that you guys are currently, that I gave you the link to, is currently living. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit New, and I go down to More. Now, this is really important. If you do not see Lumio by Smart in your More, you're going to have to go here to Connect More Apps and search for it. If you just start typing in Smart, it normally is the first one that comes up, and you just have to install it in your Google Drive. Be aware that you need to use your school district email address because the licensing is connected to email. So if you go into your personal Gmail account, it's going to tell you you're on a free trial. Your license, and I'm saying, I got to give you a little bit of a disclaimer. Some school districts, and I don't know yours specifically, they only purchase licenses for a select number of staff members. So if you're a co-teacher or you are a classroom aide, you might not have a license. I just want to throw that out for you. So if you see that you're on a free trial, ask your administrators, but I don't know specifically who has a license and who does not. Some districts buy a blanket license that covers everybody in the district. Students do not need licenses. The licenses are only for the teachers or only for staff. The students can access the student side without a license. So I'm going to hit new, more, and like I said, Lumio by Smart. And I am going to click on that. When Lumio by Smart opens, you're going to notice it opens a new tab in my browser, but it's very important that you do not bookmark this tab. You want to go through Google Drive. Always go through Google Drive because it's going to keep you more organized. Now, if you noticed when I just turned it on today, it gave me a little pop-up. That's because Smart released new features yesterday, and they were letting me know, hey, it's the first time you logged in since the new features came out. Do you want to look at them? I haven't had time to play with those new features yet. I can try to look at them with you, but I don't want to confuse you guys if I'm looking at it for the first time as well. Those new features are, they have an immersive reader. From what I was told about the immersive reader, it will only read text that was typed in Lumio. So if you convert a PowerPoint or a Google slide, it's not going to read that text. Again, I haven't played with it myself yet, so I don't want to go too into it when I'm not sure myself. Now, you notice that when I hit new and Lumio, I was in that T3 Expo folder. This is important because when I come here to create an activity, you're going to notice it says add that content to the My Drive T3 Expo folder. So anything I create right now is going to save in that folder that I was in when I came over to Lumio. If I bookmark this page, it even says it right up here. By default, it's going to just save everything to a folder called Lumio. If you want to stay organized and you want to know where your files are, you're going to always want to go through Google Drive. It's just very important to just go through that Google Drive so that your files are where you want them to be. You're also going to see up in the corner, you have your initial and you have an edit feature. With that initial, if you were on the free trial, instead of saying subscribe to Smart Learning Suite, your screen will say like 10 of 45 megabytes. The free trial is a limited amount of storage. The subscription is unlimited. So that's how you can tell if you're on a trial or you have the software. It's just, if it says you're subscribed, you're subscribed. It also has here a bunch of other things that you should know about. The what's new, that's going to give you, it's going to link to Smart's website, and it literally says, all right, January 2022, here's everything we just released. So if you turn it on today and you're like, hey, I don't remember that from yesterday, that's where you can see from Smart specific notes on what just came out. You also have request a feature. This is something that teachers really need to know about and utilize. Whenever when their engineers are sitting there twiddling their thumbs with nothing to do, this is where they go. Every new idea that's been installed into Smart for like the past however long they've been doing this comes directly from the customers. So you'll see, like right here, interactive spinners, dice, cards, and timers. Especially in today's remote and hybrid world, we want to be able to access this stuff without using separate websites. 435 people hit vote. By voting on it, that's telling the engineers, hey, we want this in Smart. I don't want to have to go to timer.com. I want to just be in Smart. Or I don't want to go to classroomspinner.com. I want to do it in Smart. So when you put an idea, you can search for ideas other people came up with. But even like you go here, it says enter idea. I want to be able to download Lumio files. I search and I'll see right here, a lot of other people have already asked for that. And I would just be able to vote on it. If I type something and the idea doesn't show at all, I could actually finish my idea. post a new idea, and it will let me write it. I hit submit, and now other people can vote on it. So that is a really important feature. Request a feature. Smart really listens to what teachers are telling them. I like to make sure I point that out to you right away. All right, the last thing we're going to look at on this home screen of Lumio before we get into actually making files is the edit class. If you were in any of my earlier sessions, we talked about hellosmart.com and we talked about the class ID. If this is your first session with me, every teacher has a class ID. Whether I'm on a computer or on my board or anywhere else, if I log into my Smart account, my class ID is always the same. For whatever reason, if you wanted to change it, you can hit reset. However, you cannot pick your own 6-digit code. It will randomly reset the 6 digits. I haven't seen any reason why you would need to reset it. If you got like the number 666 or something, maybe, but I haven't ever seen that come up. So I don't know why anyone would need to reset it, but that's how you would do it if you need to. Renaming the class. This is one that a lot of teachers ask about. If you notice on the top bar here, you see it says Cori Frede, visual sound. If I wanted to come up here and say like Miss Frede's Smart class, I can change my class name. It's also important to know though, when you are changing your class name, that is changing. It would be like hanging a sign on the door of your classroom. That is not the actual class. So if you're a science teacher and you teach like one section of bio and one section of chemistry, you don't want to have to label that like the Miss Frede's bio class, because it's going to say that for every student of yours, whether they're in bio or chem or physics. That is your classroom title. So just be aware when you're changing that class name, all of your students are using the same classroom. Managing guest access. If you are like me and you do professional developments, you might leave that turned on. If you are in your physical class and you are only using if you're only using this with students, turn that toggle switch off. The reason why is because you want your students to sign in with Google. You want to force them to use their accounts. When we talk about asynchronous, they cannot access asynchronous materials as a guest. They can only access asynchronous materials if they're logged into Google. If you do something and they need to go back tomorrow and finish it, if they're logged in as a guest, the cookies on the computer expire, they log in tomorrow, they're not going to be able to access it. So you want to go up to edit class, manage guest access, and turn it off. Yes.
I have a quick question because we have younger students at the kindergarten center. Okay. We use Clever.
So it should work because once they're logged into Clever, when you go to Smart the first time, like when they hit Hello Smart, they would just click the button that says log in with Google and it should already populate their passwords and stuff.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. I mean, that's something we could definitely double check, but I do know that that's how Clever is supposed to work. So like once you log in that first time with their QR code, they shouldn't have to type a Google password at the next time when it says log in with Google. Again, we can definitely double check that connection for you though. All right.
So would we want to turn off that?
Yeah, you still want to turn off guests. You want to force them to hit login with Google.
Okay, or their Clever badge. Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah. All right, so if I go to hellosmart.com just to show you the student side of it, this is what ends up happening. So you'll see it says welcome students, and I have 2 classes listed here. If I click sign in, because that was logged in as a guest, and I sign in as myself, you'll see I now have more classes because this is every training that I have logged into as a student. Once those kindergartners connect the first time to your class, think of this like the hallway. So if I need to go into Miss Stork's class today, like let's say that I'm in her training, I would just click on her name. I don't have to re-enter her code. But now if I was coming into, like, for example, your class, I would click join the new class and I would type in the 5-digit code for that class and click join. So I have, this is like my hallway. So when you're synchronous, and this is only for synchronous, but you would click on the teacher's name to come from the hallway and actually go into their classroom. All right. And now that I just logged in as a student, so I have to log out of a student and log back in as a teacher. But before I do that, let me just show you that part. If you go to the page here and it says student sign in, and I click like sign in, that's what I mean when I say it shows you sign in with Google. They shouldn't have to type a password. When they click sign in with Google, they just click through to their names. It might be 2 or 3 clicks, but they just keep clicking their name until it gets to this screen. All right, so I'm going to go back to teacher sign in. So that way I'm accessing it as a teacher. And we'll see what opens. All right, so if I click that add activity now, you'll see it saving to Lumio, and that's because I didn't go through Google Drive, because since I logged out and logged back in, I technically went straight to the Lumio page. So when I click add activity, now it's saving to the Lumio folder. But if I go back to the T3 Expo and I click new, more, and Lumio, when that window reopens, now I'm going to be saving to the folder for T3 Expo. And you'll see when I click the add activity, now I'm in the correct folder. It's a little, to me personally, it's a little confusing that it says add activity instead of create new file, because really that add is creating a new file. If I wanted to add to an old file, like this was from earlier today, I would click edit, and that's how I would add to an old file. So I personally think that's a little confusing that it says add instead of start, but this green box is to create a new file. You'll also see explore resources. This is where you can find stuff that was created by other people. Mostly these things are created by SMART themselves. So you'll notice like here's emotional literacy, here's managed classroom. So there's a lot of pre-made activities that you can just pull in. A lot of teachers actually really like doing this like lunch bag. And what they might do, this one's actually different than what I was thinking. Some teachers will kind of like have the lunch bag in the menu, and they'll have all their student names listed on the bottom. So when the kids come in the room and they're taking off their jackets and, you know, the teacher's doing attendance and all that, the kids walk to the front of the board and they drag their name to the pizza, or they drag their name to the brown lunch bag because they packed. Or so some teachers do lunch count by having the kids just move their name on the board when they're walking in the room. But this is just a pre-designed template so that you don't have to go search for a picture, search for the work. You would just have to create your kids' names. But yeah, so lots of different pre-made activities are there under the Explore resources. And then you have, yes.
Sorry, just curious, since they're logging in kind of through Google, can these actually be tied to like actual attendance, like the software that we use, eSchool?
No,
it
wouldn't sync to eSchool. This activity that I'm talking about, when they physically come up to the board, that's not connecting to their Google accounts at all. That's just physically on the board. I was just showing you that there are pre-made activities that you could use.
Okay, that would actually be cool if that actually linked.
You know what? Go up to the request a feature and say, I would like to be able to sync grades and stuff with eSchool, and see if it actually works.
Okay.
If enough teachers ask for it, they'll make it happen. That's why the Google Drive, when Lumio first came out, it didn't have that Google Drive connection. It was like legitimately just this. And you could see how like messy and disorganized this gets after a while. And it was because teachers kept saying, we want to use our Google Drive. We like our Google. That's why they did it. All right. So I am going to hit that add activity now, and we're going to look at this menu here. So what you're going to notice is the first option on the top says import resource. And you'll notice it says PDF, notebook, PPT, PowerPoint, if you didn't know that one, and Google Slides. So let's say that you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You don't want to have to start from scratch, because you might be teaching a subject where it doesn't change every year. Some subjects do change, like current events, not the same today as it was last year. World War II, Actually, they just made a discovery about Anne Frank, so World War II might be getting an update. But overall, certain topics don't change every year. But that doesn't mean your presentations have to stay the same. You can update them. And that's what's great about this import. So if I come here to import, I'm going to go to Google Drive, and I am actually going to pull up the file that we're working with today. So I'm going to take my full deck here and click select. And what's going to happen is it's going to take that entire Google slide presentation, and it's going to populate a series of preview slides for me. And because that slide deck is kind of big, this is going to take a moment. But what it's doing is it's like legitimately taking a picture of every slide, and it's going to show me a preview and let me select which slides I want to use. So when this is, I shouldn't have done such a big presentation. When this does it, it's going to let me do that. And what's really cool is I'm going to show you how to make those interactive things and make your presentation come alive and become interactive. And then we're going to show you how to share it with your students. So if they're at their computers and you're at your board, or if you have to go hybrid again, I'm doing this with you over Zoom. I'm going to have you guys enter my class as a student in a moment. So you'll be able to see what this is really like. All right, so obviously I do not need the whole presentation. So I'm going to unselect the select all. And I'm going to start, there's my title slide. There's this session. I'm going to skip over the pictures of the board because I shared with you guys the full slide deck anyway. I'm going to select my icebreaker. I'm going to select some screen shares, some tools, differences between the games. All right, so I selected the slides I wanted for Lumio and I clicked add. So now you're going to see that all of those slides are showing up in Lumio's editing function. I'm going to change the name of the file to Lumio demo. And if I go back and I refresh my Google Drive, you're going to see Lumio demo SLS. For those of you that were in my first session, and if we get time to go back up to the board, I'm going to show you how. But if you log into the board, it won't show the full deck. It won't show the Google slide file, but it will show the Lumio file. So any SLS file, whether it was originally a Google slide, a PDF, if it is an SLS, it will be able to open on the board's Android directly when you log into your teacher account. All right. So I mentioned that class code is always connected to my email. So I have my class code right there on my slide, on my first slide. But now I'm going to go to this icebreaker slide. If you looked at it in the Google slide file, all I did was I typed the directions. It was it. But right now, this is just a slide. I want my students to be able to use a toolbar and draw on the slides. So I'm going to come up to the top right, and I'm going to click on that magic wand. It gives me two options. Make the page an individual handout, make the page a collaborative workspace. When you make it a handout, every student gets their own copy. If you make it a workspace, you can make teams. And let's say you make teams of 3. All 3 students will be able to see everything on their slide, but they wouldn't see the other team slides. They'd only see theirs, but they could all interact with each other. Handouts are individual. And again, I'm going to have you guys log in as a student to see what it looks like on their side. So you'll see what that means. But I'm going to turn this into a handout. I can change the name and I can call this an icebreaker. Sometimes that makes it easier because it doesn't always have that great outlook where you can see what's underneath it. Sometimes the screen's just blank. So you might want to know what's actually behind the preview button. Then I'm going to actually create another activity. So I'm going to click down here on the plus sign. And I am going to create a shout out. And I can customize it and say, all right, I want everyone to be able to put 5 answers. I want to hide the students' names. And then I hit next. I could customize the background. I'm just going to leave it as the plain gray push pin just because I don't want to waste time. But I just added 2 interactive slides to this presentation just like that. Now I'm going to go down because this is something else that's really important for teachers to understand when it comes to the interactive things. Smart has amazing templates and games. Right now, you as a teacher though, if your students are working on this on their devices, you don't see what they do. So if you have this little basketball game and the kids are ranking it and they're dragging the numbers, you're not going to see what they do. It stinks. It's terrible. It's so much fun for the kids, but it's terrible for the teacher. So there are ways that you as the teacher can create your own. And that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to create both so that when you come in as a student, you can see the difference. So I'm going to hit the plus sign and I'm going to go to game-based activities and I am going to do rank order. I'm legitimately making this the exact same thing. So I am just going to type in my numbers and then I want the lowest number to be 0 and the highest number to be 10. I hit next. I select my basketball. I hit finish. So now if I hit preview, I can see what the game looks like. And you'll see there's the number 0, there's the number 10, and the kids would have to come drag. When they get the answer right, they make the shot. When they get the answer wrong, it bounces off the rim. So again, a lot of fun for the kids, but you as the teacher wouldn't be able to grade that. So what if you want to do a ranking activity that you can grade? So I created the next slide to just show you how as the teacher you would do this. So this is my stagnant. This is my doesn't move option. Anything you do in the Google Slides, you can't move once you convert it in. I click the letter A. I type, I'm going to make it bigger because obviously I want the text to be readable. I'm going to make it color red. And I type the number 1. I click out. I click again. I type the number 2. I click out. You get the point. If I was to do 2 numbers at once, so let's say I come over here and I click the number 5, I hit enter, I click the number 6. Notice when I click on 2, I'm only dragging 2. When I click on 5, I drag both 5 and 6. So that's why I put that hint on the slide that says every moving part must be its own text box. You are legitimately moving the entire box. So if you type 2 things in the box, it's going to drag both things together. But you could see it's a little time consuming to have to do it. But now I have my game created. I click that magic wand and I turn it into a handout. Now, when I give that to my students and they start dragging the numbers, I, as the teacher, can go in and review what they did and see how they did. So that's the difference between the smart game and the teacher game. The smart game is more animated and fun, but the teacher game is gradable. If you're doing something like ranking the numbers 0 to 10, I mean, if you're kindergarten, obviously that might be something you're doing, but yours are going to be more complicated. It's just the same concept. Any questions about the games? Okay. And then the last slide I dragged in just to show you this one. It's showing.
I do have a question.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
No,
I couldn't unmute myself. So put this on smart activity. What you're saying is we cannot tell if the kids are getting the answers right or not.
Right, unless you're calling them up to the board and they're physically at the board. So if you're doing it with as a whole class and you're at the board, you're obviously watching them do it. If you're standing behind their computer and you're watching them do it, you know if they're getting it right or wrong. But if you give this to them, because I remember I mentioned synchronous versus asynchronous. If you're giving this to them asynchronously, like for homework, you won't see it. If you're doing small groups and you're doing a reading circle with 3 kids and you have 4 kids on their Chromebooks working independently, you won't see the work from the 4 kids working independently. So that's what I mean when I say, if you want to be able as a teacher to go back later and see what they did, you kind of have to reinvent the game yourself. If you just want the kids to let's say you're just doing multiplication facts and you just want them to practice, you don't need to know if they got it right on the game because you're giving them a quiz tomorrow, 20 problems with 1 minute to answer as many as you can. Well, then in that case, you're not grading them today on the game. You just want them to play a game to review. Do a smart activity. It's going to be more fun for them, but you don't need to see their work for that activity. That's kind of where the differences come in.
Okay, you can't even run a report from that?
The only the only thing that you can run a report from is responses. Responses is an assessment that will actually provide you an Excel spreadsheet when you turn it off. So that is the only smart activity that will give you an actual report of how the kids did. Any of the other games is completely ungradable. Like you can grade it by like standing behind them and watching them do it, but you can't grade it in the sense of like when I come in here later. So I'm going to click finish editing right now. And I'm here in the Lumio demo. I'm going to actually go to a training from yesterday or from earlier in this week so you can kind of see this. So if I come into this training and I go to the handout, you see how it says student progress? I can click on that. And now what happens is those were my students in that class. And when I click on their name, so of course she didn't do anything on my demo. But when I click on the name, I could see what the student wrote and what the student did. So that's the difference between the activities and the handout. I could grade the handouts because I'm able to come back in after class and see their work.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So I'm actually going to not go into edit. I'm going to go into start now. And what I am going to say to you guys is if you want to follow along, I'm going to edit and kick the kid out from last period. So remember, I mentioned to you guys that you have the same class code all the time. It links to you. But I don't want students from first period coming into second period. So I just kicked her out. And now what I'm going to say to you guys is if you want to try as a student to see what this is like, you're going to go to hellosmart.com and log in as a guest. Now, it's a lot easier to do it in an incognito window. I already kind of showed you how to log out as a student to log back in as a teacher after. But for simplicity, if you go in an incognito window, you don't even have to worry about that later on. But if you'd like to do that, go on hellosmart.com and you're going to just click login as a guest. You don't have to connect with Google. When you log in as a guest, it asks you what your name is. If you log in with Google, it's going to automatically use whatever name is on your Google account. So that's another thing to just be aware of when I told you want your students to always log in with Google. It's because when they log in with Google, it forces their name to be their name. Anyone who's played Kahoot knows that kids put really funny names when they put fake names. So I have one person logged in.
So I have a quick question, please.
Mm-hmm.
So I did try to import resources and it gives me the options to local. So I have a PowerPoint presentation. I clicked it. It took a while to load and it divided into slides. So how can I embedded more questions or more links in this presentation? So it's different from Google Slides.
Oh, excellent question. I'm going to come back out into edit mode for a moment. So if you notice, if I click on the 3 lines on top, it shows me end the lesson or edit. So I'm going to click edit. All of you that already logged in, it's going to now tell you you're waiting for the teacher. Don't worry about that. I'll come back in a moment.
Thank you.
Wherever you want to add the new slide. So let's say I want to add them right after this slide here. I click on the slide that I want above it, and then I click on the blue plus sign. And it says import resources. I could add a second PDF, a second Google slide, anything like that. I could add a Desmos calculator slide. So I can come here. I could add my graphing slide and it'll put the slide right underneath. If I want to add a Venn diagram, I come to graphic organizers, I find a Venn diagram, I could add that Venn diagram slide. So you just click on that blue plus sign and you can add, you can merge, import, whatever you need to do. You could add a YouTube video. This is what's really cool too. If I click on the YouTube video, I'm going to search for fireworks because I can't think of anything else to search right now. So I am going to do this is Katy Perry's lyrics. So I'm going to click for Katy Perry. I hit play, I hit add. And you'll notice on my preview, the slide is just the logo for YouTube. I'm going to hit finish editing now. And for those 6 people who are in my class, you're going to see the thumbnail and you're going to see the button that says play. Every student can hit play on their own. So this is a little, it's a little bit of a can of worms if you have 1-to-1 and all the kids are in the classroom. But if you're remote, this is great, because if you've ever tried to show a video through screen share, you know that it buffers and it doesn't always work really well. But every kid who's logged into Hello Smart can hit play on their own and watch the video. So like if I hit play, I know this video is 3 minutes and 49 seconds. So I would say, all right, class, this is a 3-minute and 40-second video. We are going to come back as a group in 4 minutes to talk about it. So please hit play and watch the video.
I like it. That's really good. Thank you.
Yeah.
So when you playing the YouTube inside the Lumio, this eliminates the ads, or you still getting the ads?
Excellent question. It'll eliminate the ads at the beginning, but if you notice when I hit pause, it does come up with like that more video line at the end. And if I get to the end of the video, you know how when the video ends, it always recommends like next videos?
Yes.
That will still show.
Okay.
So I mean, unfortunately, when I did Katy Perry, the Scylla, whatever her name is, her little video popped up. So you do still get thumbnails for future videos, but yes, it does cancel out the advertisements at the beginning and the end of the video.
That's a cool feature.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So I want to show you, for my 6 students who are in the class right now, you're noticing probably that you have your screen, if you go into your browser, it's showing the same thing that I'm looking at. And the reason for that is because if I click here on the people icon, you'll notice that I'm currently in what's called teacher pace. I have it set so you have to be on the same slide as me. So your arrows are grayed out. If I switch this to student pace, you're going to suddenly see those arrows are going to be movable and you can play around yourself. So I could, if I had like notes, I could be like, all right, guys, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to preview what we're doing today. You know, I give you the time and then I can get my slide on the screen set and I'll be like, all right, we're ready to start. Good morning. And I hit teacher mode and it forces you all back to my slide. When I'm in teacher mode, until the students hit start, I am only seeing a black screen. I can click teacher handout, and if I'm on the smart board, what I'm looking at on the teacher screen is what would be on the smart board. So I open up that screen so they can see it. I discuss it with them, and then I'm like, all right, guys, I want you to work on this yourself. So the students all hit smart. I pull that arrow down and I'll see right here, 3 of my students have started the assignment. Now, does that mean that they're done? No, it means they started. If I click on the name, I could pull up and show you what they did. So this person drew a smiley face. I go to the next one. This person just looked at the slide, but they didn't write anything. I click on the next one. This person looks like they're trying to write hi or something. They just put a letter H right now. Oh, they wrote hello. I pull the arrow down here and it pulls me back to the full list of names. So you can do that either way. You can pull the arrow down to see the full list, or you can use the arrows here to just toggle between students. But that is how the handout works. I just want to, oh, you deleted the comic. I was trying to read it. Oh, Ruth, that was kind of funny too.
So when I'm trying to go to hellosmart.com to sign as a guest, it's always require an ID. And you said it's recommended to ask the students to use their own like school emails, so their names should be there.
So yeah, so the class ID is my code because you're trying to enter my class. Okay. When you as a teacher, and I'm going to come out of my lesson for a moment. When you as a teacher are on your main screen here, that is your class ID right under your name.
Thank you.
Yep. And then if you're in, like, let's say you're at the board, you're presenting and a kid says, what's your class ID again? If you come up here and you click on the people, your class ID will also show right there at the top. you can hit the arrow and it will make it full screen so they could see it in the back of the classroom. But yes, that's where your class ID is.
That makes
All right.
sense.
So the next thing I want to show you is those games. So I'm going to come back to the slide that shows the two different ones. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to go to student mode. So this way, the 7 students that are connected, you can go between slide 10, which is the comparison of the two, slide 11, which is my basketball, and slide 12, which was my teacher made. So that way you can see what the student perspective is that shows the difference of those two games. I'm going to just give you like 30 seconds to do that. And then we'll come back as a group and keep talking about how to do stuff, because I want to show you how to share this with your students for asynchronous. And I want to show you how you can go back in and grade stuff later.
So right now, when I'm using this ID, it shows on your side as a teacher, like, for example, Samir has joined your class.
Yeah, so if I click on that icon of the two people, it shows me the list of who's in my class. So currently I have 7 students logged in and it's showing me all 7 names.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so like I said, I'm going to give you like 30 seconds to go between those 3 slides. I know only 7 people connected as a student. I see I have 9 participants in the class. That includes myself. So there's only 1 person who's not currently playing along with us. That's actually a pretty good statistic. I got 90% of you.
You're lucky. We don't have the same most students.
This is the highest level of participation I think I've ever had as a sample presentation.
Yes.
Gold stars for everyone. I wish I could just throw some candy at you.
I have another question.
Yep, go ahead.
For that basketball one, when we're doing the rank orders, is there a way to make that like a question and answer type of thing?
So rank order is specifically ranking. I mean, I've done demos where I did the planets and I put like the sun on the top and Pluto on the bottom and then wrote words. So if that's what you mean, yes, you can't, but that specific game is ranking.
Okay.
I'll come out of edit for a moment and I'll show you some of the other games. So on your screen, it's now going to tell you waiting for the teacher. So if you come back to the Zoom call to see the screen share, I click on the plus sign and I click game-based activities. These are all the different types of games that you can create. If you see one that says teacher-led, those are the type of games where you're going to call kids up to the board, or Monster Quiz is actually like Kahoot. So your kids would be playing on their devices and the scoreboard would be up on the smart board. But the other games could be either way. It could be just like the basketball, but here you have Superstore. So for Superstore, you can do fractions and decimals, or you can do periodic table and compound. I am not a chemistry teacher. I can't think of what the vocabulary is, but you know, like a single element versus a compound element. Oh, maybe that's it. Compound element? I don't know. But you could do that. So like if you did that, you know, like the letter H is helium, H2O is water. So you can do like a sorting like that. And then instead of being ranking, it would have like 2 things and you'd be dragging to the different sides. What's really nice is when you're trying to figure out what game you want to create, you see how in the corner of each one, it has that little like graduation cap. If you click on that, it gives you a preview of what the game is. Oh, see, look, that one's ranking the chemical, the element weights. Like there's the matching, you're matching the animal to the sound. But yeah, so it will give you a preview so you could see what it looks like before you start creating the games. But all the games are super simple to create. Like if I come here to like the match them up, I want to match the fraction to the decimal. And I would come here and I would type in 1/2, and I'd come here and I'd type in 0.05. 1/4, 0 point. I'm not going to make more. I'm just going to do 2 as the example. I'm not going to make you sit here watching me type. I pick my background, I click finish, and there's my game. And then they can drag the 1/4, they can drag the 1/4, and they're playing the game. All the games are that easy to create. As fast as you can type is as fast as you can create the games. So again, that's the game-based activities when you click the blue plus sign to add. I personally recommend, and I have a slide that says this, to create your slides in Google Slides and then import them, because I think you're able to design better in Google Slides. Like if I come to the plus sign and I want to create a blank page, first I got to pick my background, I click add, and then when I come here to like do my text, I only have 5 fonts. I can't choose any other font besides those 5. I can't like say, okay, I want it to be size 16 because I can't type a number to customize. I can only choose their pre-populated numbers. I have the dots, I have the color wheel, so I can choose other colors, but it really is a limited editing functionality in Lumio. So when I recommend to do that, anything that's not interactive, do it in your Google Slide. And then once you import it, and that's why it says optional add a placeholder. Let's say I know between this tip slide and this blank slide, I want to have a shout out. If I had a slide that said shout out, when I imported it, it would remind me, hey, put a shout out there. So that's why I say placeholder. It's just to remind you to put the YouTube video, to put the game. You don't even have to make a slide with the actual questions. Just make a slide that says game. Something to remind you when you import that you needed to do that.
Cori,
yes.
I'm sorry, you probably showed us once, but could you just quick show us again how you imported the Google Slides into Lumio?
Sure. So there's actually 2 ways to do it. If I am,
Thank you.
Actually 3 ways technically. All right, so if I'm on this slide right here, so if I opened up Lumio and I want to start from a Google slide completely, if I click the green add activity, I can select import from my Google Drive and select the file. So that's way number 1 for when you're just starting. If I open up our file from today, and let's say I want to add another Google slide to this file. So like I had slides about fractions, but I want to add like a slide about decimals. I click where I want it to go underneath, and then I click the plus sign, and I can import a second Google slide to my current Lumio file. So I can import additional files. I can, like here, this is a PDF of math problems. I'm going to import those math problems. And it's going to import that PDF, and it's going to put it right underneath the other slide. So there was my, where did I do it? There we go. There, I was on the line, the line, this page. When I did it, it adds the slide right underneath. So you can add stuff like that. And then again, you could hit that magic wand, make it a handout, and now my kids would be able to solve those math problems. For those of you currently in student mode, I'm going back in because I want you to see this. When you are looking at that slide, right now, those math problems are really small. But look to the bottom left of your screen. It's a little hard to see sometimes because it's grayed out, but this is important for your students. You should see a plus and minus that says 100%. You could have the kids zoom in, and then they use the finger to move the page around, and they can come here to number 1, and they could write their answer. They can take the finger, move it up, go to the pen, answer number 2. And then when they zoom out, all their answers are there. So the kids, when they're doing this, can zoom into individual problems if that makes it easier. So don't worry that it looks so small when it's full screen, because you can zoom in to customize. All right. Any questions on the creating the slides before we talk about the asynchronous learning and also like some best practices for presenting to your students.
I'm trying to edit one of the PowerPoint and like it said, you have to unlock each slide. What is unlock? I'm trying to unlock it. It gives
Okay.
me.
So if you were, once you import it from Google Slides,
Yep.
what happens is if I click on the slide, do you see how it has that little lock in the top right corner?
Yes.
If you click on the lock and you click unlock, what happens is now you can move stuff. But this is like the little nuance. You can't like move a single object because what happened was it took a picture of the slide and it brought the whole Google slide over as a single image. So notice that when I'm moving this right now, I'm moving my entire slide on top of that white background. And that's because this is legitimately a picture of a slide. So if you needed to edit, like let's say you imported it and you found a typo, what you would need to do is you would have to go back into your Google Drive, into your Google file, fix the edit, and then re-import it. And to re-import, you click the plus sign, import, go through Google Drive, and then just select the one slide. But yeah, you can't edit the Google Slides once you import them. It is literally a screenshot of the slide.
So also I noticed when I got like some PowerPoints from the local desktop, it eliminates some letters, like maybe because the language is a little bit not familiar because I'm teaching Arabic. So I feel like there's some letters missing from the actual PowerPoint.
Because it's taking a picture, it shouldn't do that. What type of files do you have on your desktop?
It's PowerPoint.
They're PowerPoint, and the PowerPoints are showing correctly?
It shows, but some letters are missing from the vocab.
On PowerPoint, does it show correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So what you might want to try, I don't know why it's having that issue, but if you're in PowerPoint, when you click File, Save As, do you know how you can pull down the option bar to make it a PDF instead of a PowerPoint?
Oh, yes, yeah. So I should like save it first as a PDF.
Try that. See if that makes a difference. I don't know if it will or not because it shouldn't. Like it should be importing the PowerPoint exactly as your slide looked. But if my theory is if it's cut the PDF, because then the PDF is kind of locking it down first, and then so try that and see if that helps.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. And also, after everyone starts to log off, if you want to stay on for a moment, when you're using the Android on the board, you could actually change the recognized language. So if you try to do handwriting to text, you could actually change it to Arabic. So I'll show you how to do that if you want to stay on after everyone. Or if you're everyone else, you're more than welcome to stay on too. I mean, if you want to see that. All right, so we are almost out of time. I want to show you how to do asynchronous. So I'm here in my presentation. My class is working. My kids are working hard. So we did the icebreaker. We did the shout out. I want to send you home and I want to say to you guys, all right, so I want you to study tonight. You have a quiz tomorrow. So I want my students to be able to look back at the notes. If I click on the 3-line menu up top, there's an option that says share. The second link says let students access at their own pace. If I click copy that link, I can now post that link in their Google Drive, in their Google Classroom, in their Canva, wherever you guys post links to students. And when they log in with Google, they'll be able to not only access the slides, but they will have full functionality to move around at their own pace. They will only be able to interact and write on any slide that you turned into a handout. So you don't have to worry about like Johnny deleting the whole presentation and then little Susie goes to study and Susie's like, I can't see anything, it's all blank. It's a view only. They're only viewing it and they can edit their own handouts, but they can't see their classmates' stuff. You as the teacher, when you come back in, so like let's say tomorrow morning you want to see who did the homework. You open up the file, you go to the slide and you click student progress, and you will be able to look at all of the student work that they did while they were at home. or they did while they were working independently in small groups. So that is how you share it for asynchronous. You click on share and you click on the link that says let students access it. Now, the give teachers a copy is a little different. I know when you're used to Google Files, if you want to work collaboratively, so if you have two math teachers and they want to use the same file, you can do the like allow both to edit it. Smart does not do that. With Smart, what happens is when you click copy and you give that link to the teacher, like if you were to click on that link right now, it's going to make a copy and put it in that Lumio folder for you. It is a photocopy. If I change something later, you don't see the changes. You only see it at the moment that you made the copy. If you make changes to your copy, I don't see it on my original because it's a copy. So that's just really important to know about the teacher copy is it's a carbon copy at the moment they hit the link. All right. The last thing I want to talk to you about, so I'm going to come out of here and end the lesson. How many of you teach the higher levels, like the high school level, so not the elementary kids, but you might teach like 3 sections of Algebra 1, or you might teach 2 sections of bio and 1 section of chem. If you're teaching multiple sections of the same class, it is really important that each class has their own file. The reason for that, I'm going to actually go back into that file quickly. So if you remember, we did that icebreaker. And in that icebreaker, here's my list of students. Well, next period comes in, there's going to be more names. Third period comes in, if you teach 3 sections of 25 kids, you're going to have 75 names there. So what you want to do is you want to make a copy. The other reason, some of these activities, so like the shout it out, I hit start for class. All of the kids that answer the questions are going to pop up here. Well, I come to next period, all of first class is going to be there. If I click the reset, it deletes all the answers from period 1 so that period 2 has a fresh start. So if you have a separate copy of the file for each class, they're going to be able to, have their own copy, and you as the teacher don't have to delete period 1 to grade period 2. To make the copy, when you are on this screen here, click on the 3 dots and select make a copy. So my best practices, what I recommend is create a master copy of your slide deck and then make a copy for each class. So you'll have your master copy, and then next year, if you're using the same slide deck, you just make a copy of the master slide deck and you're ready to go for the next class. Once you make the copy, you are probably going to want to change the name, because if you start to have a million files called copy of, it's not going to help you stay organized. So once it makes the copy, what you want to do is you are going to click. And if you go back to Google Drive, just to show you this, by the way, if I refresh, you'll see I have the copies came in the Google Drive too. So like once I made the copy, I can actually come here, right click, rename, and I can call this period 1. And I can call this one, because I accidentally made 2 copies. And I can call this one period 2. And now in my Lumio, unfortunately, it doesn't always refresh automatically. So in Lumio, it kept that other file name, unfortunately. I'm not sure why there's that disconnect. So you might want to, instead of editing it, you might want to edit it in the in Lumio. It should have converted the names, but unfortunately, you noticed it didn't do it this time. So if you change the name in Lumio, you would just go into the edit for the lesson. Just like a Google file, you click up here and you can change the name. But that is a really fast Lumio lesson because we only had an hour. I didn't get into like a lot of the pedagogical stuff. This was more of like a technical overview of Lumio. If you have questions though, if you go back to the Google Doc, the slide deck that I shared with you, the very last slide has all my contact information. Actually, no, it does not. I did not add that. Let me add that slide real quick. Wow, I could have sworn that my contact information was there. I apologize. So I am going to import my contact information to your slide deck really quick. There we go. So now you have all my information. You have my LinkedIn profile, my email, my Twitter handle, everything is right there for you. And I'm going to put it in the chat as well. So there's my email. And there's my Twitter. So you can feel free to reach out and contact me if you need to. I really hope that you guys got a lot out of this, because I know, like I said, an hour is a really fast time to get through this much stuff. But if you have questions, I'm going to hang around. I am going to show Samir how to change the language on his board itself. This will only affect the Android, what I'm showing you. It's not going to affect anything on your computer. Your computer is going to stay the way that it is.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. But if anyone else has questions, you are more than welcome to hang around. So let me go back to the. Oh. As I turn the camera around, and you're seeing my entire studio because I went the wrong way. So there's the door. Let me come back around to the board. There we go. All right. All right. So the first thing I need to do on the board is I need to get out of my computer and go back to the Android. So I'm going to click on the little house down here at the bottom, and it takes me back to the Android. Over here on the bottom corner, it has settings with a picture of a gear. So that's where you're going to click. And then on the left, you're going to see it says language.
Okay.
This is what I want to show you. You're going to see two languages. You see system language, and then you see ink to text language. If I click on English next to ink to text, I should, does it not have Arabic? Apparently it does not have Arabic. I was wrong. It has Japanese, it has Chinese, it has German.
But thanks for trying.
I thought it had Arabic, sorry.
No, it's,
but that's how you can change the ink to text. Like I said, Chinese, it doesn't apparently have Arabic. So I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good. Thank you so much. Well, we
welcome.
can go around this.
All right. So this was being recorded. I will get the recordings uploaded and sent over to my contact person at your school later on. I believe I'm going to double check my emails real quick to see what the name was. It was Carolyn Bush.
Okay, Carolyn.
So I will get her the links to the videos later, so that way you guys all have the video. All 3 sessions were recorded, so